Especially, I would like to mention that VDUT-AI has taken up the challenge of developing India's first indigenous stack for a complete stack of EOI, IR thermal, as well as a hyperspectral camera. And this is embedded in IT Madras, and we have a consortium approach to this development because if you did this on your own to develop a full indigenous stack, it will take us 5 years. We have put ourselves a 2-year time frame, and one of my consortium members is Amber Wings, the CEO sitting right here. He's one of the lead principal advisors for the firm. And the good news I can announce is that a majority of the subcomponents of this technology is already at TRL 5 and 6 at indigenous level. And if all goes well, we will be able to bring you an indigenous lens, an indigenous sensor, indigenous thermal core, indigenous gimbal, and the entire system. So give us 2 years, give us a problem statement, we'll deliver it for you. This. Thank you so much for this opportunity to do this wonderful presentation. I today represent not VDUT, I represent the industry. Because of the challenge that is thrown, by the wish list that is given by the Air Chief and the CISC as to what they expect from the industry. Do we have our ears on the ground to know, is the industry developing? Is the industry responding? Is the industry providing what the forces need? That's the ground survey I did. And I had a pretty good groundswell. With ears on ground, what I'm going to present today is where does the industry stand. Right, so what I did was, I shot out this survey to the entire industry using my LinkedIn contacts, using my WhatsApp contacts, using my forces contacts, and almost 329 people visited this survey. What this survey was about? It's about finding whether the industry is really developing technology, not just product, and at that, where are they standing? So 32 responses were completed. As on today, more than 40 have already come in after we started today, but I had to put a stop somewhere. And all 100% completion rate. The interesting part is that a large number of them are from MSME and startups. We don't have anyone here from a big, large industry player. There are also players from the R&D labs. The ecosystem is young. This is interesting for me because this is promising as well. If you see a large chunk, almost 47% are incubated last year or incorporated last year, and 31% just 24 months. That means they are young, nimble, agile, and they can do what needs to be done for agile warfare. The other part is that Chennai and the South India leads this entire ecosystem. Well, these are the list of technology and products which I put on the list for people to respond as to what they are developing. So if you see the percentages, you find that there are good numbers who are in AI and avionics, almost 41%. The platform, entire platform coverage, which is fixed wing, multirotor, is 38% and 34%. Then the Counter-UAS is in detection, there are 22%, hard kill 13%, and soft kill. Now, surprisingly, the number of players who are doing Counter-UAS is much lesser. Whereas for what the Air Chief said today, while we did a good number of UAS, but for defending, our counter-UAS systems has to be far more vibrant and far larger. Hopefully, more players will come to this area. On the material side, we have very few players, at least those who have responded. Okay. Now, the industry, what I did thereafter was ask them what kind of positioning they have. Do they have a dual approach, or do they have a pure civilian approach, or a pure military approach? So I found that 72% had dual approach, 28% pure military, but there was no civilian player in this particular survey. It is also a cause of concern because it shows that the private industry has not been able to provide the necessary impetus to the this UAV sector. Then I quizzed them on TRL. Where do they stand on TRL levels? So the TRL levels, it is something good news if this is true, that 37% today lie at TRL 9, which means they are ready to go to market. And I'll also come to what are these TRL 9 ones. There are good numbers between TRL 2 to 3, and the mid TRL is very thin, and someone who's actually hit the market, they have probably not responded for the reasons that of propriety. Now, I also asked them that how did you validate yourself in terms of a TRL? Because the Anusandhan Research Foundation of India has issued out a TRL framework for the first time in the country. Now, issuing a framework is one part, but who will validate that framework? Because without validation of the framework, how would either the military put in money or the government or the private sector put money on something where revenue generation is visibility is almost 3 years down the line. So there has to be some system, which is the recommendation which will also come up in the end, as to how to identify which from a third party certification validation as to how they are reached which TRL. But as of now, what they are doing is they are saying that it is customer validated or DGC or military certified in some way or military trial approved, and 34% are self-declaration as far as TRL is concerned, 13% have no formal declaration. So this is one area where I think we all need to act and create a framework where if someone claims he's reached TRL level, how do we identify that? The other thing was that 23% of the firms, 23 firms said within 6 months they will reach TRL 9. They are already positioning themselves in TRL 9, but actual fact is that they're going to reach TRL 9 in 6 months, and 87% within 12 months, and almost 12% will take a year to reach TRL 9. Now, the other question was, are they happy with the way the industry is running today in a very fragmented manner? Obviously not. So I suppose I asked them the question that in Tamil Nadu, we are creating the first drone aviation corridor. We have already started working on the airstrip, which will be dedicated for a drone. There's a BVLOS corridor coming up from Karaikudi to the sea, 50 kilometers BVLOS corridor, 50 kilometer wide. And it's going to have the entire test system, trials, systems for assembly, final line assembly, everything that a drone would need, ecosystem would need to come up there. And I asked the question, would anyone like to relocate? 84% was the response that they would like to relocate to a cluster. This is another great lesson that we need to take, that in the fragment industry today, our industry cannot grow. We need to cluster them together so the entire ecosystem grows together. Then I asked them, have they received support? So this is the breakdown of what kind of support they have received. None, 45% of our startups have not received any support whatsoever. I think this is not good news at all. Every single startup today needs to be given some support or the other. And they are not looking for financial support all the time. Let me tell you this as well. There are some who have received DST grants, state governments, IDEX 13%, MEITI. I know IDEX is doing a great job. But of all the people who are there, the numbers who have received is less for good reasons. Obviously because there's a lot of scrutiny that happens. But it's a great movement forward that IDEX recently had 282 challenges coming up. And I'm sure more than 3,000 applications would have come in different ways. So it's a great movement forward. That's not yet factored in here, and this is definitely going to change. The other interesting part is that in terms of funding, if you see, almost 66% are bootstrapped even now, and they are dying for funds. They're looking for funds. They're looking for seed capital, as small as seed capital, as much as 2 lakhs, 3 lakhs, 4 lakhs is what they're looking for. Well, I'm in touch with these youngsters. If somebody gives them 5 lakhs, they'll treat you like God. But the kind of talent they're bringing on board is like 20 times more than what you're actually investing in them. So we need to find a way how to help these bootstrapped guys to, not burn their family jewel, but find a way to move forward with some sort of a support system. There is support from this corporate sector, some angel funding, seed funding, and this is, since it's a symbolic representation of the entire ecosystem, 32, maybe let's say there are about 300 people developing. So it's a fair representation of the entire ecosystem. When we ask them, what are the constraints they face? You'll be surprised. This is something, testing facility is what they lack. And let's face facts. There is a wish list by us. There is a wish list by the military, by the army. But how can an army adopt something which is not test certified? Where are these test facilities? I think even the chief mentioned about this, the air chief. We need to create systems where not only we have very reliable test facilities of world standards, certification standards, and one of the recommendations I would like to make to the chair is, we need to commission a system where the military goes to these so-called test agencies which are there in the market. There is HCL Technologies in Chennai, there are other players with DRDO, there is HAL, but there are many private sectors who have created test facilities. If you can visit them and declare them that they have been visited by the military, they meet the standards of QCI, they meet the standards of NABL, and for the military they are good, fine to go. Then there is a place where these startups can go get their components tested. Because if you don't test them all together at the component stage itself, then when you build into a subsystem and then into a system, you will find that component is not originally tested. So this is extremely important for the drone industry to develop. More than funding, testing facility creation and trial facilities is an extremely important aspect that they have said. Apart from that, there are other things that they face challenges with is funding gaps, defense ecosystem integration, long sales cycles, lack of procurement visibility. Import dependency is another major thing which Air Chief also spoke of. The certification regulatory requirement is very challenging. It's very difficult to get through some of these. And then, of course, talent, skilled manpower, many are definitely facing, which the gap is slowly being covered. And real-world data sets from the military. How do we make sure that real-world data sets are given to those, especially those working on AI ecosystems? What is the ask, therefore? What do they need? What are they looking for? It's, again, trial opportunity to the force is something they're asking for. It's not easy for the armed forces to give so many trial opportunities to everyone. So if you create a mechanism, something is definitely happening with the Army. I'm not sure how much the Air Force has done. But if you can create trial mechanisms where they are able to come and trial, and we give them some sort of a yes or no, you passed or you didn't pass, tell them very clearly. That will help them go back to the investor, tell them this is what they did, this is what they need to do more. So some sort of a trial report should be given, even if they have failed, which is very important. Long-term commitments are they asking for. Access to testing ranges again remains high on the agenda of what their ask list is. And then detailed definement of geosecure problem statements, which has come a long way. The last time that the DISC challenges were issued, I think those problem statements were very well written. And I think that's my compliments to the entire armed forces for having done that. Transparency in ADEX process is another thing we need to build it a little bit more. Currently, because I myself applied for 6 challenges, by the way, and we have no visibility where we are, and we only come to know if we are picked up. There should be some way to know where we lost out also. So building transparency takes time, I understand, but if you build transparency, the industry will get more encouraged. Then we asked them what kind of support system they need from the PSUs and market access. So they said supply chain localization, testing infrastructure again has come up there, technology collaboration, manufacturing partnerships, integration with large platforms, investment funding definitely need, and market access. Now this is what the private sector is not able to provide as of now. The reason is not that the private sector is not willing. The reason is that the Drone Rule 25 is still in papers. The reason is there are no BVLOS corridors. The reason is that DGC has not come out with a system by which the drone industry can be adopted by the private sector. So you can't blame them. So where do we go back? We go back to the whole mechanism that our policy is lagging the desire of the industry and the armed forces. Now I'm just going to flash a list of companies which have claimed that they have different TRLs. So you can take a look at this quick list. Since I'm short of time, I'm going to go into each of these. So these are the companies which are developing, these are the core products. These core products, they claim as to have already reached TRL 9. So I'll request the chair to take note of this. You can reach out to them. If they are not able to reach out to you to say, listen, buddy, what can we do for you? And first tell us that you actually reached this TRL. And if they have, let's support them. There are others in different, so we have all sorts of core products that are being developed, and I have insisted that only mention your core product. Don't tell me you're assembling the entire system, then you're not part of the survey. You are part of the survey if you're developing a core critical component or a subsystem at best, not even a system. These are the 10 early stage systems who have lab validated what they have. So they are in proof of concept stage, and some of them have come up with excellent matching requirements of what the technology we need to develop to make this whole sector sovereign for India. Another interesting question I asked them was, would they need the assistance or a guidance of a veteran? Can you imagine that we had a large number, 64% said that, a small number as of now said that they have veterans, but a good number said they want a military veteran to get embedded with them. Now this is a great model. If some of us can create a model by which you create an ecosystem of military consultants, onboard them, qualify them, certify them, and make it available to the industry, I think this can really work well for the industry as well as the military. And the military veterans, I think we have large amount of experience that they carry with them, understanding of the ConOps, understanding of the thing, and the industry can really benefit if this whole system can be formalized. Well, I will skip this slide for reasons that I don't want to dwell too much on what each individual has done. Now, what structural reforms, therefore, are we looking at from the industry, from the armed forces, from the different kinds of structures? So frontline access is something, this is my recommendation, that let's create systems by which our people can reach the front line and do the testing. This accessibility, if this can be made more vibrant, I think this will help a lot. Procurement preference. Now, this is a very important thing. A simple example, there are almost 10 players today in the country developing flight controllers. But a flight controller developed in India, even if it matches that of an imported flight controller, today they cannot price it anything below 15,000. That also will be cutting their corners. Whereas a flight controller, which you will import from a friendly country or an adversary country, it will cost you 8,000, 9,000, or maybe 12,000. So our flight controls cannot reach that till such time there is scale, till such time there is support system. So if a Indian player uses Indian flight controller and likewise other components, each of them cannot have the matching cost capability with the people who have, with the countries who have already brought the system inside this, then how does an indigenous system actually happen? Because they will never be L1. So my recommendation here is procurement preference. That means while the indigenization list is there and indigenous content has been described, but I think we need a framework which clearly says that if there's an indigenization content which is not based on value, but based on technology, where we need to value that technology, that framework needs to be built in. How do you build that framework? Because today, indigenization IC content is 50%. You can have the Indian company saying that my land is there, my factory building is there, my people are there, my taxes are there, they put all that and make it, this is 51% of mine and 40% I have taken technology from foreign. Where is IC here? This has to change. What needs to come? The IC must be defined in terms of technology and we need to learn to value that technology. Then only you will start buying Indian. Otherwise, under the L1 scheme, there is no way you can do this. Program inclusion, big programs that are happening. So these TRL levels that I mentioned, reach out to them, get them to come, join the program, let them co-develop, give them a chance to co-develop. And I think the ecosystem will grow. This can really act as a catalyst for the startups to move forward. Testing infrastructure, I've labored on it enough. I don't want to labor anymore. But suffice to say that we are working on this in a big way in Tamil Nadu. I'm working with TIDCO, that is Tamil Nadu Industrial Development Corporation, to develop the entire infrastructure in a place called Karaikudi. So you're welcome to come and chip in there and extend the support. I would request the military also to come and see what is happening there and extend and tell them in advance what the military needs so that we can create the right ecosystem there. Component certification I already talked about. It's extremely important. And I also spoke to the DG Aviation today, somebody from the EME, Deshpande. I was mentioning this, that they must take the lead to certify components in advance. For example, let's say there are about 5 companies developing flight controllers. Just call them up randomly and put them through the necessary military standard testing for environment as well as performance, for EW, for e-warfare capabilities, etc. And then just say that these are approved by the military. 5 of them, empanel 7 of them. Don't be partial. If you do that, then our industry knows, who are assembling the whole system, knows which flight controller to pick up. Today, the company I represent, Amber Wings, I don't know which flight controller engine I should pick up. I'm just trying, that let me try this. And when I go to the military, they say, whose flight controller do you have? How do you know it's performing? Now, how do I explain this? So this needs to go. We must adopt in a way to make sure this happens. So there are many more such recommendations, but I only brought in 5 in the end to make sure that we are there. And these are the kind of summary of my recommendations for the IAF, for the DPSUs, and for the entire ecosystem. Well, if I can just leave this behind with the audience and with the chair to discuss this further as to how to do this. Hopefully, we will also be able to delve with this in the question and answer session. That's the end of my presentation. If there are any questions, I'll be willing to take on once I'm back in the chair. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you.